Hi there. You're listening to Unnatural Selection, the show where we talk about newsy type stuff and things. My name is Tom.
And my name is Adam.
And with our powers combined, we are Unnatural Selection. You can follow us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com. I legitimately almost said my name is George at the start. I was thinking about the fact that obviously George isn't here, and I was like, yes, we'll mention George is feeling under the weather today, so he's not joining us. But yeah, I almost said it.
You said it, but you said it perfectly, and now
Thanks.
you've called it out. Now
Yeah.
I know that you were very close to stuffing it up. So you've just become your own worst enemy there.
I'm nothing but honest. Like,
You are.
I'll just be honest about my mistakes. That's just the kind of guy that I am. But yeah,
Owning up to it.
George isn't feeling so good. We hope he feels better soon. Yeah,
I think my Bucks buddy broke him. He went out and it
that's
definitely
true.
broke me.
Yeah, it broke a lot
So
of us.
this is our first show in 2 weeks because last week I was too hungover to do it, and I think none of us could be fucked. You were in transit.
I was on a plane. Yeah, so wouldn't have been too
Yeah,
great.
it wasn't a good one, but
Yeah.
and now the lurgy has caught up with him, so I wish him well.
Yep.
But now you get to the good side of that is you do get to hear Tom and my voice for the next hour or so in your ear holes, for better or for worse.
That is where it's best to hear our voices. If you hear
Yes.
our voices in any other orifices of your body, consult a medical professional. But yes, opening up this week just with a quick little follow-up to a story from our last episode. We talked about in our last episode that we were gravely disappointed that Donald Trump could claim that he was a billionaire again, like worth something like $8 billion or whatever, thanks to Truth Social being publicly traded and having some crazy value, overblown, inflated value, despite its lack of usership and all that sort of stuff. Well, good news, everybody. That value has plummeted since we last talked. This article from, we got Bloomberg here from early April the 8th, that TMTG, the Trump Media and Technology Group, wiped about $2.8 billion worth in value, as, the people who had pumped up the stock price promptly sold it, which is, how the old pump and dump trick works. I'm an idiot. I don't understand stocks that well, but I'm familiar with the term pump and dump. It's pretty easy. It's what happened with game stonks and all that other sort of stuff. You
See, Tom, let me break it down.
overinflate it.
You
and
pump
then
it,
you sell it. You pump it,
and then you dump it.
and then you dump it. Yep.
You dump it.
It's
You
all
dump
in
it.
the
Pump,
name.
and then dump. Two steps. Third step, loss.
Yeah.
Or profit, depending on how good you are at pumping and dumping. So look, it is still worth. I think it's still worth in the billions. It's just not worth as many billions.
Yeah, something like
so we're talking
5 billion, I think now. So still heaps. He's still a billionaire. He can still claim it, but it's just very fucking funny. To sort of see.
It's got a
this.
market capitalization of 5 billion. I think it's worth about 2.9. There's a lot of numbers being thrown around this Bloomberg article. They don't always line up, but also I'm not an economist, so these all might make sense to people. We'll post the article in the show notes, and you can read it for your own enjoyment. It may well have actually evolved since that article was posted because it has been roughly a couple of weeks.
And that's also how stock markets work, right? As George has famously said, it's rich people's feelings graphed.
Indeed.
So
it is.
Just going up and down, how happy or how sad they are on any given day.
How pumped or how dumped they are. In this instance.
Welcome to Dumpsville, population you.
But yeah, it's just one of many crazy, tech stocks that just get absolutely blown out of the water and then annihilated.
Yeah, they're all excited about the next big thing, and the next big thing is the next pump and dump scheme. They just never quite seem to see it.
Speaking of the next big thing, Bruce Lerman.
Yes.
A lot of news happening in the last 2 weeks around this guy.
Oh man,
now, it's been a fortnight, but I guess the headline is that the judgment for his defamation trial against Channel 10 and Lisa Wilkinson is about to come to a close. The judgment should be handed down, I think, sometime this week.
Tomorrow, I believe, at
tomorrow.
day of recording. I thought, Monday. We're recording on the 14th of April. I think the 15th is when it's supposed to all come down. So annoying for us.
Annoying.
Annoying.
We've got to pick a better day.
Yeah.
We always pick on the days before things are meant to happen, and then they happen, and we're like, okay.
But when someone tries to sneak a little sneaky story out on a Sunday afternoon, it's when it's perfect.
It's delicious.
Yeah, it's great. So this all might change tomorrow. Like, who knows? We might have a whole completely different thing to talk about regarding Bruce Lerman by next week. But what was fascinating was 2 weeks ago was when the judgment was meant to happen.
Yes.
It was coming down on like the Thursday after Easter, I want to say, and then during Easter, Channel 10 made an emergency, real quick filing
Admission.
to the court to be like, we would like to reopen proceedings because we have new evidence. And that new evidence, it was granted. They delayed the judgment to be like, all right, fine, we'll hear your new evidence. And that new evidence came in the form of a former Channel 7 producer. I'm gonna butcher this. I should have looked it up earlier. Taylor Orbach. I think
that's probably close.
Auerbach. Taylor Orbach, who was a producer for the program Spotlight on Channel 7, which was the program that interviewed Bruce Lerman in 2023, I believe. Him coming forward to talk about what the lead up to that interview was like, and it involved some pretty crazy, wild shit, to which, the judge was like, okay, I will allow this, but watch yourself, counselor. And watch themselves, they did. So, Taylor has given some pretty crazy testimony, beginning with that. Okay, I guess backtrack a little bit. How sometimes a lot of these interviewee sort of stuff works is that, it's not just that you book them in, you book in someone to speak to on the show, and they rock up and you do the interview, because like the person that you're wanting to interview, in this case Bruce Lerman, for some reason they fucking wanted to talk to him, he could just decide not to do it. So it's usually never contractually obliged. Like, you are interviewing
You gotta warm
someone.
them up, Tom.
You got
warm them up.
Yeah, you
get
gotta
them to trust you.
Build rapport, all that sort of stuff. Because he could go, no, actually, I'm pulling the plug. I don't want to talk to you on this because you're not contractually obliged to do a tell-all interview with anybody, right? So they were buttering him up a little bit. Like, they were catching up for lunches, all these sorts of things. And one such event from I believe it was January 2023, that Mr. Orbach talked about, involved a pretty boozy evening that allegedly involved cocaine and he said, here we go, involving illicit drugs or prostitutes in this instance, and that he also charged something like $10,000 to the Channel 7 company credit card for massages for Bruce and his friend. And
so
there was that, and then also that after one of those evenings, like a week later or something, that Bruce contacted Mr. Orbach and said, like, oh, my funds are pretty depleted after that wild night we had, where Channel 7 reimbursed him some money for that. So, by proxy, paying for a drug and sex worker fueled evening for this guy.
To be clear, So Bruce paid for a lot of that himself, is my understanding.
They had a wild night out. They James Ashby style got on the sauce.
Yeah,
is my understanding.
And then there were, I guess, expense claims lodged with Channel 7 after the fact.
Yes, that's right. Not only was it a message of, oh, my funds are a little depleted, after they said, yeah, sure, okay, we'll reimburse you, he supplied an invoice, apparently.
He invoiced them. Now,
he invoiced them. I don't know if it said, invoice for X amount of blow and all that sort of stuff on it, but fuck, that's funny.
To be fair, under cross-examination, Mr. Orbach conceded that he never saw any record of payment being received. Mm-hmm. So there's So 7 has allegedly not reimbursed Bruce Lerman for the expenditure, but We haven't seen the receipts. I haven't seen the account books. That's all I'm saying. I haven't seen the data, Tom, to verify that claim.
Yeah, look for the sex workers and blow transaction down the bottom.
We'll just search by date and just a keyword search.
Date category.
Escort. How do you spell escort? ESCORT. They're not hookers. They're escorts. They're sex workers. Sorry. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, who knows whether or not that actually. Obviously, they did those things. I don't think there's any sort of. I don't think there's any sort of like dispute about that night and what happened that night. But I guess the reason why they're doing this is because the defense for Channel 10 is trying to impugn the, I guess, reliability of Bruce Lerman.
Yeah. Establishing a difference of reputation. Like, because I guess a big part of defamation law, right, is that you are lowering someone's reputation in the eyes of others. And this will, I'm interested to see what happens tomorrow, because this, I think, will be one of the biggest tests of you can't be defamed because you are already a dickhead. And just whether or not that then gets a precedent.
I mean, maybe that might be the case. And we'll talk about the next development of this, which makes me, I mean, the next, I mean, if you want to describe a pattern of behavior, you could argue there might be one, and we'll talk about that just in just a sec. The only other thing we should mention was that Mr. Orbach, he resigned from Channel 7.
Yes!
The very next day, he said, he's like,
the next morning.
I can't believe what I did last night. I resigned.
I charged $10,000 on the company credit card for massages.
Wow, whatever that might have been.
Yep, I feel terrible.
And the Channel 7 declined his resignation and then gave him a raise. You're such a good soldier. You're such a good soldier that we're going to give you a promotion. Please don't talk about this ever again.
I quit. You can't quit. You're hired.
Now, he has since... I think there was a disagreement at Channel 7 and he has resigned, and they did question him to say, well, are you just doing this to get back at Channel 7?
Yes.
And he's like, oh, no. But I'm like, obviously he is.
Yeah, because...
But also, the two things can be true. The two things can be the same. Like, he could be trying to get back at Channel 7, and this may also have happened.
Like, so...
They are two and one of them say
he does, it seems like he does have a... there's a history of, or at least there is... credibility to him wanting to, stick the boot into Channel 7. There's some previous behaviour where Mr. Orbach admitted that he, quote, previously hated a 7 executive, Mr. Jackson. They'd been friends for many years, but had like a bit of a falling out. And the court was apparently played a slow motion video of Mr. Orbach destroying Mr. Jackson's golf clubs. I was like, you hate this guy, here you are destroying his golf clubs. That's so specifically...
Why is it in slow motion?
Yeah.
Why is it in slow motion?
And it's such a specific, like, rich guy burn. Like, there he is destroying his golf clubs. Like, you're not keying his car or something.
As someone the other day, that we went golfing.
We went golfing.
There were a couple of loose golf clubs, and let me tell you, it was... frustrating. It was a massive burn. So that looked. I mean, I get it. I get why you would do that. I don't get why the court would play it in slow motion. I guess pause for effect or something.
I don't know. I don't know if they chose it to be slow motion. The impression here is it's something that he uploaded to his Instagram once. So maybe he made it a slow motion video of destroying the golf clubs.
Right. Okay.
Which
here's the evidence. Here's the evidence of the thing that I did where I vandalized someone's property. Sure.
Yeah. Great.
God, such a good gag.
Yeah, but so he went on to say, like, just how he's like, I'm not proud of doing this interview with Bruce Lerman. Like, it seems like maybe he's only not proud of it for all the alleged, like, grooming that he did sort of beforehand, or all, like, the everything he did to kind of woo Bruce to do the interview, rather than maybe you're sitting down to interview this alleged rapist. Like, maybe shouldn't that have bothered you enough, I'd argue, but okay, if that's where you draw the line, it's where you draw the line.
And so he did, it worked. I mean, he appeared on 7's Spotlight program.
He did.
Yeah, two interviews, in fact. Apparently it was late 2022, 2022, 2023, sort of early.
Oh, have I got my years wrong? My apologies.
Well, it's around that sort of like change of year sort of period. So very, very similar area.
Oh, I think the interview was in late 2023, and
correct.
It was late 2022 to early 2023 that these boozy evenings were said to have happened and all that sort of stuff. Another part of it, sorry, that I found just a little bit just like, are you shitting me? Was Orbach talked about how while he was having these dinners or lunches or whatever with Bruce Lerman to kind of be like, so we're going to, to do this interview, blah, blah, blah. One of Bruce's things was like that he doesn't, quote, ask me about that night in Canberra. And Orbach's reply was like, well, we're doing an interview. I'm gonna be asking you the hard questions, like all that. But really, what you should say is like, why do you think literally anyone would want to ever talk to you, Bruce? You have nothing interesting, like nothing anyone wants to hear about, other than that.
I mean,
you are not interesting.
There are people that put him up as the sort of, the wronged poster boy of the right wing, who's been sort of, victimized.
But even in that context, the reason that, like, if you were sitting down to interview him to be like, tell us about how you were wronged, part of that would be, I'm innocent for that night in Canberra, right? Like, you'd be asking questions about that, and then the process as a result, I don't know, just him being like, oh yeah, I'll sit down to do a big, like, tell-all interview, but I won't talk about the one thing that literally any journalist will want to talk to me about. Yeah, you are not an interesting person. Otherwise,
a lot of interviews go like that. Oh yeah, don't talk about the thing that is obviously the main motivator. And I guess the spicy bit of information which has come out this week is that.
So that was the week before last. This is this week now.
This is this week. Apparently, Bruce Lerman was crashing at like a friend's house, a big sort of house in North Sydney. Mm-hmm. Basically, it's sort of been taken in by some friends and was sort of staying there for a bit. And all they've been doing, or at least all Bruce has been doing, is allegedly just throwing parties.
Yeah.
To the point now where they've all been evicted.
Yes, the neighbours complained.
The neighbours complained furiously, and there were photos. The Daily Mail. Like, say what you want about the Daily Mail, but they get the good stuff, Tom.
Oh, they do.
They're first
sometimes
on the scene.
Yeah.
So they did a bunch of stuff where they obviously broke the story about like all these parties that were happening, and then they had a bunch of images of like some beer bottles and like girls in the backyard
and people
and
coming and going from the house and stuff. Yeah, like it's. I mean,
so the landlord was like, this. The landlord was like, "Well, that's my house. What the fuck? Get the fuck out."
Yeah, I gave you somewhere to stay. Just because you needed somewhere, and you're doing what? Because the neighbors complained about what they called screeching karaoke until the early hours of the morning, specifically mentioning "I Will Always Love You" by Whitney Houston. Like, they were like, we can tell what song it is. This isn't just noise. We can hear specifically what song they are attempting to sing. And
I love good karaoke, but like it's been happening for a couple of weeks apparently, and the reason for it is that Channel 7 stopped paying for his $2,000 a week Bondi.
Yeah, maybe
fucking house.
Yeah, they've suddenly realised, oh shit, it looks like it now. It looks
Northern
bad.
Beaches.
Now it looks bad that we've been doing this. Never mind all the scrutiny we've been getting for months since we learned that. Now it looks bad. And promptly had more big raging parties at this place. Like the neighbors were saying that people blocks away could hear the noise. Like, I guess, neighbors complaining and making noise complaints, take the accuracy of maybe how loud it was with a grain of salt. Yeah. People can be tetchy, but still, it's like, seriously, the ruling of your defamation case comes down like in a few days, and
you're just blitzing it.
Yeah, you are blitzing it in this house, just bringing over people.
Yeah, like who's going to these parties? Like, I don't know if this is like who goes. You know what? Like, whether you believe he did do it or he didn't do it, who's going? Yeah, great. I'm going to go to a party with Bruce, who may or may not be fined or, whatever. He's got this big trial coming up. Who's going, yeah, this is a good idea to go sing karaoke at his house at 2 a.m. in the morning or whatever time it was.
It really sounds like he has some serious dropkick friends because, remember that vision that came out ages ago of, when the case, the actual criminal proceeding was dismissed after the juror misconduct, there was him at a party singing Bruce Fought the Law and Bruce Won with his mates at a house party. Sounds like, he keeps some pretty shitty company. So,
well, I mean, he's got friends who like to party. I think that's
clearly
the obvious thing. And that, nothing wrong with that. But, the context. I mean, but here's the other thing: if you're gonna go down in flames. Commit.
I mean,
that's the other. That's the shoe on the other foot. If you think you're gonna lose your trial, why not? This might be the last chance you get to fucking live it up. You know? Why not? But it is to say that Bruce likes to party. I think could be verified as
I think
on the balance of probability is true.
Yeah, I think to borrow the legal jargon, in the eyes of a reasonable adult, I think you could make that
probably
claim.
insist that he likes to party.
Yeah,
and that is a pattern of behavior.
I
kind of feel sorry for his friend a little bit, who I think allegedly the Daily Mail reckons that his friend was just thought he'd just have him for a couple of days, and now they're all getting evicted.
Because you were evicted from where you were living. All right, you need somewhere to stay. He's clearly someone who's got a spare house or whatever, and that's a problematic thing for another day. But yeah, and he's going, wait, you fucking shitting me? You're doing what in the house that what a loser. Can I just say, what a fucking dickhead. That just...
It's crazy.
He sucks. The more we're hearing about him, it's wow, what a piece of shit. In my opinion, what a piece of shit.
I'd love to see the mental gymnastics of certain right-wing figures that have sort of backed him in from day one as being this sort of model, individual that's sort of... I mean, look, we all like to go and have a party every now and again, but...
Oh, yeah, well... First they came for the ex-Liberal staffers who love cocaine and booze in house parties, and I said nothing, for I was not an ex-Liberal staffer who loves cocaine and boozy parties.
So, yeah, I don't know. It's just... It's kind of okay, great,
Yep.
You do you, Bruce.
Yeah.
But we will wait with bated breath for tomorrow, and we'll see what happens. I think the possibility is that... Because there's three possibilities. Either he was defamed,
and
he was not defamed. He was defamed, he gets money as a result of that. He wasn't defamed, and then he has to pay everyone else's legal costs.
I guess, depending on what the judge says. Yeah.
Or the judge could just say, there's not enough evidence
just
really
throw it out.
Make a decision here and just throw it out.
Yeah.
In which case, everyone loses.
Yeah, unless is that the crazy play? It's just there is too much of a deluge of stuff for me to make a ruling on this. Is it, okay, why don't I be the most colossal fuckhead I can possibly be to maybe just see if we can throw this out, because the precedent it would set is bananas. I don't know. I was thinking about this this morning, actually. I'd be interested to know, and I don't know if I know anyone who's sort of a bit of a more legal expert in defamation stuff or not. But we've talked before about the idea of something to be defamatory, it has to lower your reputation in the eyes of a reasonable adult, quote unquote, and as well as truth being a defense. If you can prove the thing that the alleged defamed thing was true, then it can't be defamatory. But the other part being, if their reputation was already that low, you can't have lowered it, kind of idea. This evidence coming out now, would that have any bearing on whether or not he was defamed then? Because when the interview aired, we didn't know all this. So does that change?
Timing would have something to do with it.
That's what I'd wonder. Because when you start bringing it, as we talked about with Ben Roberts-Smith and all that sort of stuff as well, right? You bring a defamation case and all the shit we would never have known about comes out of the woodwork. does that have an impact on the ruling if that information wasn't in the public eye at the time of the event that we are suing for defamation over? Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it all has to be tied back to the time in which the events occurred. You can't say, well, everyone thinks you're a shit cunt now, so therefore the damages might vary depending on the timing. But it is an interesting question, and that's why I am not a lawyer. But I will read the articles where everyone else pretends to be lawyers.
Yeah, where if it's not an interesting question, Adam's your lawyer.
Yes,
it's an interesting question. It's why I'm not a lawyer.
That's why I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah,
I like really boring questions. And speaking of questions, our next article today. Do you want to talk about the thing that happened yesterday and the response of Channel 7 around that?
Yes, Channel 7 has had a very awful, not very good week. Yeah, that's true. So I guess we're not going to talk about the actual sort of event too much because a lot of the information's still coming out. But yeah, there was a mass stabbing at Bondi Junction, the Westfield at Bondi Junction yesterday. Horrific stuff. I think 6 people dead, more in hospital. It was really awful. But Channel 7 announced the identity of the stabber, who's now deceased, was killed by a police officer at the scene. Announced the identity of the stabber, and it wasn't them. It was someone else.
What's that called when you misidentify someone like that?
It's called it's in the business we call it an oopsie poopsie. No, I actually don't know. Mistaken identity.
There is a word for that,
like
where you name the wrong person. I might be mixing up my set of stories here.
Slander.
I guess it
libel.
Is to some extent. Channel 7 have issued a correction very swiftly, but it goes to show that it doesn't matter if you're right as long as you're first.
As long as you're first. And so I haven't looked too much into who the incorrectly named person was, like how they got there or anything, but I've seen a lot of people sort of referring to it was a name being passed around in a lot of right-wing forums and things like that, because Australia being Australia, people were immediately jumping on being like, oh, so is this some ISIS terrorism that's happening? Or, oh, is this someone going into a very Jewish area and it's a Muslim person getting revenge against Israel? And everyone's like, whoa. No. Nothing to that end has been established. At the time when people were making those claims, it was an hour after it had happened, and you're like, whoa. And the person who's since been identified as a white guy from Queensland who has no connection to either of those ideologies or faiths or anything like that. And yeah, so I hope all those people are eating some very humble pie and looking at themselves as to why they immediately leapt to the most racist response that they could possibly think of when people are dying. But yeah, real awful. But
awful. But yeah, it's just
But yeah, Channel 7...
Classic journalism within a crisis. People just... they're like, well, we don't know for sure.
Oh, and
let's do it.
And they need to be seen talking about it. It's such a weird kind of thing of it's a total sidebar, but it's something my partner and I have talked about a lot. That there seems to be a big thing of people feel they need to be seen talking about the thing that's currently happening.
You can't ignore it. We did the same thing before the show. It was like, should we talk about this?
Yeah, and it's not, I felt the reason why we sort of talked about it initially was I don't want to go into just all the details of the event because there's not a lot of comedy. There's not comedy in there. It was
tragic.
It was
it's
fucking
sad,
awful.
It's horrible.
I was at that shopping centre, not at the time it occurred. I left it. I was there from 9 a.m. to 12:30 running some errands. So yeah, I was at that location yesterday, and then when I got home and see the news alerts, like some real sliding doors kind of moment could have led to me and my partner being there. So yeah, not a lot of funny sort of things to talk about around that, but yeah, it really does link into to be seen to be talking about it. We were there's not we're not reporters, but also at the same time it's if we had not mentioned it at all, I feel it would be unfair to be like, why aren't you talking about this? You're on the wrong side of history if you haven't mentioned that tragedy happened. It's like, well, no. And you don't need to score points by just having something to say about it and talking about the any ideologies that could be behind it. The info's not there. So it's better. It's better to be right than to be first.
Indeed.
You know what I mean?
Check your facts.
Yes. Channel 7 are having a really bad fortnight.
Nailing it. We've said things on this show that I definitely should have fact-checked more, but...
10 million %.
We're not here to give you the absolute truths on life. We're here to hopefully give you some entertainment. So... One thing, though, that might trigger you to look further into things, which is probably something else that we do, is to trigger your curiosity, is why Australia is giving $900 million to a defence company that helped, well, in the words of Crikey, helped murder Zombie Frankham. Zombie Frankham was one of the aid workers that was killed in the missile strike the other week, which has garnered a lot of international attention, and it has
in Gaza.
In Gaza. Yes, there's been lots of missile strikes all over the world, actually, in fairness. So in Gaza. Aid convoy. They'd flagged that they were an aid convoy, and Israel still somehow managed to strike them. Israel's done an investigation into it.
And they fired. They let go 2 guys.
Sorry, Jim. You're not cutting the mustard. See you later. That's it. End of story. Job done. And
talking
that's
about
been happening.
Yeah, the investigation side of things again. Like, we're not experts in this sort of stuff. I know people will be talking about like where the targets were hit, trajectories, how accurate are the kinds of systems, like the kind of weapons that are used, and all that sort of stuff. Like, that's for the experts to determine. It's not a good look though that you've bombed an aid convoy. But the side of it that's being brought up here is that, obviously the outcry has been substantial, and this has been
a turning point, perhaps. In some of the diplomatic relations.
Yeah, well. in the diplomatic relations, especially because it's something that ever since the Israel's onslaught into Gaza started like 6 months ago. There's maybe been a lot of public sentiment of, hey, we should be condemning this more. But the Australian government seems to be condemning it a lot more now that this has happened.
Ramped up.
It's definitely ramped up. Like, where Foreign Minister Penny Wong would be towing the line most of the time, has now kind of gone full into this is bad. And doing
she's even gone as far as to say that they would support a Palestinian state, which is a complete change in Australian policy, if you will. Now the coalition's lost their minds over this.
Oh, of course, and disappointing that it took the death of an Australian to make her. Find that moral conscience rather than the tens of thousands dead.
Yeah, there is a logic to it. I mean, the concept being is that that by having a Palestinian state, you force Israel to have to negotiate on a more equal basis. But and she outlined a bunch of points as to why they've come to that position. But it's probably one of those things that is definitely. It's like they needed. It's like the Labor were looking for some sort of reason to do the right thing instead of...
Yeah, we have to drag them kicking and screaming into doing the right thing rather than just doing it.
And look, there are
that really should be the Labor Party slogan.
Yeah. And look, I understand this issue is very divisive and the concept around of what Israel's right to defend itself is, and I don't want to say, that the Israeli reason for the invasion is unjust, but certainly their conduct during the invasion has been problematic, to put it lightly.
They've been leveling this entire region,
it's basically there are war crimes being committed, and it's whether or not the initial reason for the launching of that invasion was justified. doesn't mean you can just like write a blank check and be like, oh well.
Yeah.
But the point being, as Tom said, the reason why we're bringing this up, there is an Israeli arms company called Elbit, I believe. Did I get that right?
Yeah, Elbit Systems.
Yes, Elbit. ELBIT Systems. And Australia, or the Australian government, was handed them $900 million for a sort of secret defense project. Now, the drone system that allegedly was used, or one of the systems that has been used in the war in Gaza, is the Hermes 450 drone, and that's developed by Elbit Systems, and that drone allegedly was one of the things that struck the vehicle.
Yeah.
Now, the fucked up thing is, we've previously worked with Elbit. They're not a new player. We've previously worked with Elbit Systems, and we've turned around and said, actually, we're going to rip a bunch of your systems out of Australian defence products, like vehicles or whatever else. We're going to stop using your systems because of national security risks. And that was like a couple of years ago. And now, for whatever reason, we've done a 180, and we're giving them $900 million for a new, or at least a defence project that's being currently worked on. Now, Crikey, who are the people that have published this article, have been unable to find what that defence project sort of is.
What that money's for.
You'd assume that it's probably drone-related, but we don't know.
Yep.
The Defence Department's been pretty hands-off in terms of responding to comments from Crikey. But it does raise the question of, like, well, if Penny Wong and Anthony Albanese are now sort of aligning themselves,
like, vocally angry at both this attack, and
surely one metric, one thing, one lever you can pull, because Israel doesn't give a fuck about what Australia thinks. Let's be very clear about this.
Yeah.
Israel does not care what Australia thinks, but what they might care about is whether or not they've got $900 million in a local company developing defence products.
Yes, if they're still getting funding for their defence systems.
If it is. I'm not sure whether it was like a lump sum we paid them or whether it's a contract, or no one knows how that arrangement is working. But you'd think that would be on the table. And maybe that is. Maybe behind the scenes that is on the table. And this is just a way of, you've got to say strong things at the front to be able to pull the levers at the back. I don't know. But you would think you'd be a bit more vocal about it, potentially. If you wanted to put political pressure, you would say, well, we're going to potentially pull out of this contract. And then that pressure would then end up in the public sphere in Israel. And that would create pressure internally as well. But anyway, it's a very weird situation that we're in that regard. Like,
I feel it's just a further example of what initially I think comes across as maybe like, you're oversimplifying it, but not really. Like, that the US government does this, our government's doing this, where we're all saying like, there should be a ceasefire. We condemn the actions of both Hamas and the Israeli strikes, and it was terrible. Like, and it's unacceptable that you could just make a whoopsie and kill our aid workers, all while sliding $900 million over the table to be like, all right, yeah, cool. Like, here's still money for your defense systems, but we're really not happy about you and how you're using these weapons. Continues to give them the weapons. Like, yeah, you're oversimplifying, maybe, but it's basically what's happening. Like, you can't do both.
I mean, tear up the even if we have paid them the money already, maybe we're a year down the line into this project. I don't know, whatever it may be. Just cancel the contract.
Yep.
Like,
he's like, what are you gonna do?
We don't want your shit
about it. Yeah, you gotta flex. Like,
keep the money. Keep the money. We don't want your shit. Like, pull the lever. I don't know. Now, we should also mention that the whole Gaza conflict has intensified, shall we say, in the last week.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it.
So basically, Iran and Israel are kind of now just like openly shooting at each other. So earlier in the week, there was a bombing. A bomb was dropped on there was a strike on a Iranian diplomatic compound in Syria. Now, Israel has not claimed responsibility for that, but most people are saying, yeah, that was probably Israel, even to the point of the US. The US hasn't really sort of ruled it out either, right?
Okay.
It's a direct attack, basically. I mean, look, the whole situation in the Middle East at the moment is a proxy war between Iran and the West. Okay, let's be really clear about that. But this is the first time that I have seen recently where they're actually shooting at each other directly. And now, in the last sort of day, Iran has launched, I think, about 300 drones back at Israel, most of which were shot down, but some of them have hit their targets.
Yeah, some of them did strike.
So, hopefully that's it. Maybe Israel goes, let's just chill.
Yeah, I think the official word from the IDF was that they are considering their follow-up options. So,
and look, I mean, given how crazy the Israelis have been over the last 6 months, like, who knows, man? Like, who knows what the fuck they're going to do? But, like, this isn't good. Like, it's just not good. Like, tit for tat, just like shooting back and forth is not good for the world. Like, this is bad. You can fight through proxies. Like, I think everyone seems to be very chill with proxy wars at the moment and have been since the 70s.
Weirdly comfortable.
But I don't want... Because then if Iran really goes to town on Israel, then the US has to step in. And if the US steps in, then all fucking bets are off, right?
Yeah, well, then we get another forever war.
It's just... Like, in terms of the diplomatic maneuvers that are happening right now, it just... strategically, a lot of it is just... I just see it as all very short-sighted. Like... I mean, maybe there were targets in the diplomatic compound that were helping, like Hezbollah or the Hamas or whoever. Maybe there were people in that compound that were legitimate targets. Okay, but what does bombing them really do? I mean, maybe it helps your war effort for like a couple of weeks until they replace them and they get someone else to do their jobs.
Yep.
But the diplomatic stoush that will create is going to last for months and months and months. Like,
yeah.
It's just a short game they're playing with no fucking checks or balances, which is why journalists and fucking aid workers are getting bombed. And I can't... Like, I knew that when they went into Gaza and when Hamas launched their first attack, I was like, this is not going to go well for the Palestinians. They're going to get fucked over by this because Israel doesn't know any other way. They're just brute force, strongman mentality. But like at a certain point, you have to look at your strategy and go, this isn't working. Like, it's just they're just bashing their head against a brick wall. They've leveled Gaza. They've still got one city that they may or may not go into. The only reason why they haven't gone in is because the US is holding them by the throat.
Is that Rafah?
And Rafah, yeah.
Yeah, that was
the reason why they haven't gone into Rafah.
They were telling everyone to go, to be like, we're about to level where you live, flee to here. And there's nowhere left for them to go, so...
It's now they're like, I'll go back up north.
Yeah,
go back. Some more safe zones up north. Which, by the way, we've leveled all up north.
Please go back up to your rubble. That'll help.
And look, I understand, like, from a tactical point of view, the CQB fighting that Hamas are doing and the war that's being fought is very complicated. And sometimes it is simpler to level the building than send your guys in and risk their lives, to have someone shoot out a doorway or shoot through a drywall and you lose 6 dudes in a room. Like, I get from a commander's point of view, it is simpler to level a building.
Not if you care about civilian casualties.
But it doesn't make it right.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it right. Like, tactically, yes, that makes sense. But you've got to think, you can't think like...
Yeah. If you are legitimately trying to avoid just... erasing a people. And look, I don't want to say like I know what it's like, to be like on the front. I don't know what it's like to be one of those. I don't think we
soldiers.
could be further away.
To be one of those soldiers that has to go into a house and clear it. Like, if I was them, I'd be like, yeah, drop a bomb on it. Like, I don't want to go in there. But that's your job. I'm sorry, that's your job. And it sucks. It sucks that those people on the ground are there and they're having to do that. But at the end of the day, the buck stops with the Israeli commanders and their strategy and ultimately their leadership. It stops with Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yeah.
That's who the buck stops with.
Especially given how much more equipped they are.
Yeah.
Like
they've got the power.
You could
they've
stop,
got the
you
responsibility.
Could stop this tomorrow. Like,
you could turn it off. You could just stay. Or you could just hold where you're at and just say we're going to have a ceasefire for 6 weeks, whatever it may be. And now, the reason why I don't do a ceasefire is because it lets Hamas allegedly reorganize,
regroup, or whatever. Yeah,
but
it also stops killing children, though. So that would,
like if it's war is hell, but like you could make it not hell. You could not be. You have the power.
It's a hell of our choosing.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly right. And I just wonder at what point the bashing their head against the brick wall in the Israeli command structure, like at what point do they just smash their own brain in and collapse and die on the floor in a bloody pool of their own?
It's either that or they get rid of the wall, which is the concerning part. That's the concerning future that is possible.
Indeed.
Yeah. Yeah, but so
anyway,
why
that's
are we?
Bleak.
Why are we
comedy?
Still,
I just had to say a bunch of feelings about that.
No, and I think that's fair enough. And us as Australians, in what we can kind of do or say about it, is why are we giving money to this still? Think about that.
Again, I don't know whether the money was already. This is the thing. I don't know whether the money's already been given.
I mean, sure.
That's what I'm not sure about.
But,
I'm not sure whether it's
but a whole the conflict between Israel and Palestine didn't just appear in October last year. Like, it's been going on for like 70 years, right? So, and us and other countries have been contributing to this financially for all that time. So, yeah, you can wonder.
And also,
about that.
what happened to the security problems of like Mossad, like looking at our shit, like that was there like a year or two ago? Like, where's that gone? Just disappeared. Anyway. So,
yeah, I think just something us as even like, I hate trotting this out, but us as voters, something to think about. Like, it's an issue that should matter. But also, fingers crossed.
So how are we going for time?
We're about 45 minutes in, so we've still got a bit.
45.
Okay. We have a new Governor General.
We do.
That feels like it should be big news. I mean, it didn't blow my mind when it happened, but the Governor General is also like the person who our benevolent king can channel their views through. So I guess they're kind of one of the most powerful people in the country.
Yeah.
So
it matters. They've got a lot of power. It is the new Governor General is Sam Mostyn.
Yes.
That's how you pronounce that. And she's well qualified. I believe a former lawyer. But I guess there's been a lot of criticism from certain sectors of the community that she's basically a Labour
stooge.
Stooge, basically. But I mean, to be fair, all Governor Generals are to a certain extent picked from their own respective circles, so to speak, because the Governor General is picked by the Prime Minister. Yeah,
they're appointed by the government today, right?
Yes, correct.
Approved by the king, but
yes, the king will accept the government's recommendation in this instance. So Mostyn has progressive political views historically and currently. Links to Labor governments. She was a staffer to Paul Keating. She headed Anthony Albanese's Women's Economic Equality Task Force. She's been working with various parts of government. She knows how government works. She understands the complexities of the Governor General role. And so it's probably good as well that we've got another woman in that role as well. Quinton Bryce, I think, was probably the last one that I remember.
Yeah, last one.
I think it was the Governor General.
Yep.
Female Governor General. The last one I think was
David Hurley.
David Hurley, ex-military commander. They're always quite popular for Governor General positions.
The word general's in the name.
Yes, yeah, correct. I just find it funny that, that there's criticism about it, to a certain extent of to the point of well, this was always going to they were always going to pick someone who was probably going to be easy on Labor. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
who's going to work with a Labor government?
Yeah, someone who aligns with their beliefs. Yeah, that usually is probably the case, I find it very strange that they're such a controversial pick. I mean, I've seen some people bringing up, we're in a housing crisis and she's on a board for some real estate conglomerate or something like that. It's like, yeah, I mean, okay. I think
they probably have to.
I don't think that's as big a gotcha.
Stop all that.
Yeah, probably, but I think it's more them thinking their beliefs, their social attitudes. Given the housing crisis we're in, and we haven't really talked about the Purple Pingers saga that's been going on. Read up on it. It's good. We don't have time to get into it today.
Purple Pingers, you heard it here last.
Very last. He's been a thing for a long time, and he's good fun. Real legend. So we got a new Governor General. That's fun. And unless something crazy like the Whitlam dismissal happens, you probably won't hear too much of them doing much of anything. It's really only when we have some kind of insane constitutional crisis that the Governor General comes into play. Otherwise, they're just sort of there, waiting.
Or when there's a spill, when there's a leadership
that's what I mean. So when something spicy happens. Otherwise, they're just writing naughty letters to the Queen. Which one of them did that? Was it John Kerr?
John Kerr,
during the Whitlam dismissal kind of thing, he was writing letters.
Writing back and forth to the Queen's secretary.
Yeah.
And he was like, should I do this? And then the secretary was like, I can't tell you whether you should do it, but you should consider these things.
Yeah, it's just in letter form saying, stop talking. You can't just write that down.
And also, it wasn't the Queen's...
I'm planning a mutiny. What do you reckon? Stop writing.
Wasn't the Queen's decision. It's just the secretary being like, I don't have time to deal with this shit.
Yeah, it's just what you are saying is incredibly problematic, and I don't have time to go into why it's a problem, but please stop. Okay, speaking of problematic, but also good news, O.J. Simpson died.
Yes.
There we go. The juice is no longer loose. He's dead. Yeah.
The one and only.
The one and
O.J.
hopefully only O.J. Simpson. Yes. Died. He died on Saturday morning, I want to say, or maybe it was Friday. Of cancer at age 20. I was about to say age 26. Age 76. Bringing about a deluge of memes. Because, of course, it's modern day. Everyone knows who O.J. Simpson is. People think of him, they remember more the whole murder thing than the fact that he was an athlete and all that sort of stuff. Because, it was the trial of the century when O.J. Simpson was tried and then acquitted of killing Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman in, I believe it was 1994.
94.
Fuck you, O.J. Simpson.
I don't want to say that he did it, but if he did it, he did it in a particular way that he described in a book called "If I Did It."
If I Did It, yeah. I did also notice. I saw a cover of the book, and the "if" is really tiny. Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
I guess it's a fuck you, right? It's a fuck you to the establishment.
What a fucking monster.
Anyway, he was found guilty of wrongful death, I believe,
he was
several years.
Yeah, he was held civilly responsible rather than criminally later on. So he did do a stint in jail, but that was for I believe armed kidnapping.
Yeah, he did some crazy shit.
Yeah, he was trying to it was something like, the results of the civil case, so that found him liable for Nicole and Ronald's deaths, and the money that he then would have had to have paid out. He sold a lot of his sports memorabilia, sort of stuff to do it. But then I believe he was arrested for trying to steal a lot of it back. And, so he was trying to steal, and he spent 9 years in jail for that. armed robbery sort of stuff, and then went off and hid away in like a gated community in Vegas. The last I heard from O.J. Simpson was, did you watch that Sacha Baron Cohen show? What was it called? This Is America?
I didn't. This is the one where he had to get like wheeled out the back in a car before because they were all trying to murder him.
No, that was Borat 2. The second Borat movie was when that happened. But no, it was like a series he did on Stan that was a really insane watch. But a similar idea of like, just dressing up as different caricatures and putting himself in outlandish situations. But like spoilers for the show, I guess, but the grand finale of it, like the last episode, mid-credits drop, like Marvel movie style mid-credits reveal scene, was that he sat down with O.J. Simpson and he was playing a character that's like a Italian art house photographer or something like that, like a weird like toffee, like wanky kind of European artist. And he's sitting down with O.J. Simpson, and then a model comes in and sits down next to him, and is all like, who is this? And he's like, this is O.J. Simpson. And she's like, my English isn't so good. So it's like, O.J. Simpson. Knife shapes. And like just mimes murdering. To me, like, it's O.J. Simpson, the guy who murdered those people. And you're like, oh my God. And O.J. seems to be laughing it off, which is fucking terrifying. But yeah, it was an insane moment. Pretty bananas. But yeah, so O.J.'s dead, and that's a good thing. There's been many great gags. I think one of my favorites being that Cancer has released a book called If I Did It. Cancer vows to not rest until it finds OJ's killer. All these sorts of things. It's really, really quite a lot of fun. If the coffin doesn't fit, you must acquit. Being another one.
It's not very often you can make fun of cancer, but like in this instance, yeah. I don't know. Cancer's fucked, but it's a horrible disease.
Oh, it's a terrible, awful disease.
But in this instance, there's a few.
You know what? Broken clocks. Broken clocks are right twice a day, and in this instance, one of those times was killing O.J. Simpson. It's just
peace. We're out. We're done. See you later.
I would highly recommend just anyone, if anyone listening to this is not overly familiar with the trial of O.J. Simpson in the 90s, to look it up and like read up sort of on what happened. It was a particularly fascinating moment in history.
Show, wasn't it? Was that Netflix? What was the one with David Schwimmer?
Yeah, so that's the dramatization one. The People v. O.J. Simpson, which is really good. I know it takes some pretty serious liberties with some of the details. Like, I think there was a point in the show when one of the lead prosecutors is being like harassed over like some vulnerable photographs of her, and she gets rather upset about it. But apparently, the real woman who was the prosecutor was unflappable and like a cold, tough person. So like, like sort of maybe like did them a little dirty there. But it's a very good show. Like, yeah, and just a fascinating instance. Just the point to see this point in time when there was so much forensic evidence that tied OJ to the scene of the crime, but there was such a lack of public understanding of forensic science.
Yeah.
So saying that to the jury had them very much being like, what does that even mean? Like DNA evidence? Like, what are you talking about? And also coming at a time after the acquittal of police officers who killed Rodney King in Los Angeles. I think that was in Los Angeles. I'm sorry if I've got that city wrong. But that there was a lot of tensions following a white cop killing a black man on camera, getting away with it. That there was a lot of sentiment of seeing as O.J. Simpson being a black man being persecuted, and also that one of the cops involved in the investigation of O.J. Simpson had some serious neo-Nazi tendencies that came out in the middle of it.
That's fine.
And also that it was televised.
Yeah.
In its entirety. It's insane. So it's a really interesting moment. So I don't know.
I feel like if the show, if that had happened, like if CSI the TV show with what was his name? David Caruso.
Oh yeah, I know CSI.
Oh, that was CSI Miami with David Caruso. Anyway, if that show had come out, there was CSI Miami, CSI New York. There was with Gary Sinise.
Yeah, there's a New York. I know there's CSI. Is it Louisiana? No, New Orleans. CSI New Orleans. I think there was one.
If
CSI Sydney, CSI Sydney is a thing, or is it NCIS Sydney?
NCIS Sydney.
I mix them up. What's the difference?
I don't. One's a Navy thing with a JAG spin, which is a JAG spin-off. The other one is just a crime scene investigation, CSI crime scene investigation. But the point being is, if CSI had been a thing, if that had come out like before O.J. Simpson allegedly did what he did.
He did it. He did. We can say that now. He's dead. He did it. We all knew he did it.
When he did it. Then he probably would have been found guilty because every episode is like, oh, we got the DNA and the DNA says you did it. Every single fucking episode, man.
Yeah.
It was the DNA that gets the guy. And I'm just saying, if that was in the public consciousness, game over, OJ. See you later. Done.
Well, and it really shows like how, I don't know, why TV shows and all those sorts of things, well, they need to get that shit right as well. Like, so while CSI tells us all that, the DNA evidence means, that's pretty much a lock. It's like, sometimes it's not as accurate as you think, and you got to get into the nitty-gritty sort of stuff. So, like, depictions of this sort of stuff matters.
Tom, they need to enhance.
Not a thing. You can't just do that. And if you can just do that with modern AI sort of techniques, the AI is making stuff up. You can't, it's just interpreting it. You can't just enhance and that's what the picture is. No, this is important, Adam.
No, it's fine. I think it's good for movie plots to enhance things.
Oh, 100%. 100% it's good for that. We've gone on a real tangent. I was about to bring up how, you ever watch movies where, with modern technology now, the movie just wouldn't work? 24 wouldn't have worked if everyone had iPhones. It was a product of its time.
Indeed.
Yeah. Speaking of products of their time, we've taken up about an hour of yours, and we should probably wrap this up. So, thank you for listening to us. What's the ending spiel? I normally know it. On that note,
and we always will be.
Yes, on that note, we have and always will be Unnatural Selection. You can visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com, but you can also follow us on all the socials that have, do, or ever will exist at Unnatural Show. That includes Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, motherfucking TikTok, maybe Threads. Can't remember if George set that up or not. Who uses Threads? Dickheads, that's who. You can follow me on Twitter at Tom D. Heath.
And you can follow me down to O.J. Simpson's funeral, where I'll be sitting there with a pair of gloves.
Desperately trying to get them on,
really trying to get the gloves on. I was gonna get one a 3 size. They'll be like children's gloves. I'll be just sitting there, really just getting my little fingers in there. Take my strong hand, and I'll do that for 10 minutes, and they'll be like, "Who are you? Please leave." And I probably will.
Beautiful. And you'll hear us next week, I guess. Thanks for listening.
Forever.
Love your faces. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
I'm just imagining the funeral happening, and you just hear the eulogy punctuate occasionally by come on, damn it. And Adam's just rolling in his chair trying to do it.
Get the fuck in.
Sensational. If we had the funds, I'd try to get you to the States just to do it.
Just to do that.
Yeah, just to do that. It'd be worth it.
We could do a crowdfunding campaign.
That's true. Crowdfunding for hashtag content.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.